Hello, everyone. My name is Aubrey Williams, and thank you for taking the time to view this presentation. Today, I'll be sharing my research on how factors at home, such as technology access and student habits, can affect eighth grade math scores or algebra scores based on 2017 Naep data. This project explores questions beyond the classroom, digging into how what happens at home influences academic achievement in math. Math achievement is the key predictor of student success, especially in middle school where foundational skills are developed. However, many students don't perform well on large scale tests like the Naep, and not all reasons are related to school instruction. So this study focuses on factors outside of school, especially how access to technology and student behaviors at home may impact performance in algebra. The goal of my study is to explore the relationship between home-based factors and student performance in algebra. So, um, my research questions that I focused on, and there were four of them, are: do students have access to a computer, tablet, or internet at home? How often do they use digital devices for educational or personal activities? Do they have access to the internet at home? And how often do they discuss math problems with friends? Originally, Um, I started off with six research questions, but I decided to narrow it down for the purpose of trying to tighten up the literature or tighten up the research and just kind of make it a little bit close knit as opposed to having it so um, widespread in a couple different areas. So it's a bit more focused with these particular questions. So there were several key themes that emerged from the literature review. Um, Previous research shows that technology access isn't equal. Students from lower income or rural families often have less access. Vidger and Ladd 2010 found that simply giving students computers didn't always improve scores. In fact, without guidance, it could hurt. Ogundary and Kakut of 2023 both emphasize how critical internet and home structure were during the COVID-19 pandemic. And in other studies, um, highlighted how students engage with technology and how parental support influences learning outside of school. So these items are extremely important or were found to be important within the context of the literature. And these key points definitely helped to guide this paper. So for this study, I used the 2017 Naep data for eighth grade mathematics. Um, the sample included students from public schools across the U.S. Um, I used the Naep Data Explorer to run comparisons based on student responses to home-related survey questions or questions or factors beyond school is what it was titled in the survey, or excuse me, within the Data Explorer. The focus was on descriptive statistics, such as average scores and statistical differences between groups. So, as I look at research question one, the results for this particular question, looking at specifically device access. So, does having a device at home matter? Um, Students who had computer or tablet at home scored an average of 285 on the Naep 285 on the Naep algebra test. Students who did not have a device scored an average of 261 for their scale score. And this 24-point difference between having a device at home is a significant, or excuse me, having a device at home or not having a device at home is a significant gap in performance. There was a 4-point difference with standard deviation. So the standard deviation for those that have access to a device was 38, and for those without a device was 34. So this indicates that there's more variability in scores among the digitally connected individuals. Question two focused on how does using math websites outside of school affect scores. So students who used math websites or math help websites once or twice a month scored the highest, around 292 on their average scale score, while students who used them daily scored much lower, around 263. So the standard deviation for these particular scores were all within the same range for the most part. So, does internet access at home, research question, does internet access at home affect scores? Excuse me. Research question three. So, students with internet access at home scored an average of 284 points for their scale score, and students without internet access at home scored around 260. So there's another 24-point gap within these two um, scale scores for the particular assessment. And then the last research question talks about talking about math with friends. So, does talking about math with friends help? Excuse me. Students who discussed math problems once or twice a month had the highest scale scores, and those who talked about math daily scored um, lower. And students who never talked about math also scored lower. So it's interesting, if you just think about it, students who discuss math with friends only once or twice a month have higher skill scores versus those that talk about math on a daily basis. So the next section of the paper was the discussion section. So some of the highlights from the discussion from the results show that digital access strongly supports achievement. But there's more to it than that. So too much technology might help signal academic struggle and not mastery. And this is very true. Um, I see it personally on a daily basis at work with as much technology as we have. Um, Students don't always um master the concepts of math, even with the technology access that we do have. Other highlights: moderate engagement with math outside of school is ideal. Peer help is the most beneficial when it's structured or occasional. And the home environment reflects more than just access, it reflects support. And that's a big one. And patterns of technology use can reveal what students need. So the next section was the implications. Um, so on this section, some of the things that were talked about were schools should ensure that all students have internet and devices. Um, Teachers should be trained to spot red flags in technology use. Daily help seeking can mean confusion. Build peer learning into school models. This is just a recommendation here. So build peer learning into school models, but with structure and oversight, and partner with families to promote digital literacy and help parents support home learning. Um, but it's important and key to keep in mind that first one listed on the slide is access does not always equal effectiveness. Limitations and future research. So secondary data limits, variable control, results are correlational, and future studies should explore the following: student motivation, quality of technology use, and parental digital literacy support. So the next slide is just the conclusions. So access to technology and internet positively do affect performance. Um, Digital access matters. How students use that access matters even more. Occasional technology and peer support is associated with higher math performance. Equity strategies must go beyond giving devices. They must also be supported by families and with structure at home. And overall, that sums up my report. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.